Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast, live, of course, from Metal Form Pavilion here at FABTECH 2024. This, of course, is powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association. So proud by my two guests that I have here. I have, of course, with me from the PMA, David Klotz, and the Manufacturing Millennial himself, Jake Hall.
Absolutely. Great to be here, Dean.
What's up, Jake?
it's great to hear you guys. I love that intro voice, Dean.
Yes.
That's a voice for radio right there.
Yes. I have the face for radio. So it's great to have you both here. What I wanted to do was talk a little bit about what things we've seen at the show, what are some of the benefits for people that have been here, and get some insight into what you've seen and people that you've spoken to over the last year, Jake. So right off the bat, David has a question for you.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
How many hats, Cub hats, do you own?
Yeah.
Because you're on social media, always got a Cubs hat. We love it because I like the Cubs.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
fan of it. But I always want to know, how many Cub hats do you have?
You know, last time I counted, I had 27 different Cubs hats.
27, all right.
You know, and my wife does an amazing job with that, with collecting, because Cubs always has like special events. Like the one I'm wearing right now, yeah, this is the Arizona spring training Cubs hat. So in Sloan Field, if you ever make it to Mesa, Arizona, it's a beautiful stadium. There's spring training out there. So I got this hat when I was out there last watching spring training. But yeah, it's just got to change it up, right? You know, they got to have a different look. But they're typically blue. I only have two Cubs hats that are not blue. One is black, one is gray, but the rest are all blue Cubs hats.
Nice.
Nice. Wow. It's your look. It's you, Jake.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters.
I love
it's
it.
you.
So Jake, like Dean mentioned, you've been at the show, you've been walking around, you've been over the welding side, you've been over the fab, you've been now here in the metal forming area. So what have you seen?
You know, I would say the first thing is, so this is probably my, 15th FABTECH that I've been to over the years. You know, back when I was working in the industry, working in industrial distribution and the manufacturing side, you know, I went to a lot of them in the Chicago area and some down when it was Atlanta and other locations. But, you know, what I'm seeing at this show is an excitement. You know, the first of all, when you're walking the show floor, you're seeing a lot of people. They were worried about what was happening here in Orlando, you know, and our hearts go out to the people that were affected by the hurricane. But what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a lot of excitement. And the reason why I'm seeing excitement is because people want solutions who are here at the show. People are looking and saying, hey, how is metal forming going to affect me? How is automation changing the way we work? What is technology doing? And what can I do to excite my workforce? So, you know, some of the ways that I'm really seeing when I'm looking here and I'm walking through you know, the metal forming hall and the automation of the welding hall is robotics is a big key. More and more companies are leveraging robotics. We're no longer just taking a press, but we're doing press for material removal, material handling, going up to multi-stage presses and doing that transfer. So, I mean, I think the big thing here is new ways of automation to solve problems that manufacturers need.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. And I think when we look at some of the automation aspects, have you seen more elements of removing the somewhat waste that you have of people, of what can we do to streamline that effect? How much new stuff have you seen to streamline that, whether it's vision systems or robotics, or whether it's just taking some of these things offline to workers who that may not be able to be in a factory?
Well, I look at, you know, how are companies trying to improve productivity? And I think one of the biggest reasons, things we're seeing, and it was announced last year in Chicago at FABTECH, you know, a lot of companies are bringing in the servo presses is a big thing as well. So all of a sudden we can get higher rates, we can get better speeds, we can get better control. Out of that, we get a lot better safety. And so when we're looking at, you know, companies are looking at how technology, you know, some other companies as well. Hey, we're putting in Allen Bradley PLCs and controls and HMIs, which give us better interfaces and run times. We're seeing companies who are taking their presses and moving them to a SCADA or MES system so I can get better traceability of what my manufacturing looks like. If I have downtime, was it because I had, you know, an error, or was it scrap, or was it an operator decision? Was it because I had bad lubrication? Was it because I didn't have good feeding? You know, so the whole idea is manufacturers are always going to continue to make parts, but the idea is, how do we make it more efficiently? How do we do a better job with sustainability? How do we do a better job with a workforce that doesn't have the tribal knowledge that so many had for 30 or 40 years, but now I can pass it on to a kid who is ambitious. He's got a good work ethic. He's coming right out of high school. He wants to get trained. And, technology is going to make it so he can keep up with that tribal knowledge of that Bill or that Jim or that Susan who worked in the industry for 30 years to keep manufacturing running.
And I think all that data the members are collecting is also going to help with predictive maintenance and stuff like that. So, so I know that job when we run after so many hits, we need to do certain things to the die or for lubrication side or on a coil side. So a lot of that information's coming in. And then, last year you spoke to one of our at one of our events on AI, and I think AI is going to continue to keep moving in the manufacturing side. Anything you've seen on the AI side that companies are using now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I look at it as, for example, we're monitoring the dies. I want to be able to get as much out of a die before I have to send it back to get maintenance on it, to get fixed as possible. With machine vision, I can look at the die, I can look at the parts, and I can predict saying, I had at one point in time, I had to get it set every 5,000, strikes. And all of a sudden, if we do this, we change this variable, we change this, and we're monitoring it through machine vision, through an AI software, I can get 6,500 strikes out of it if I have it within these parameters. Right. But the other thing as well is I like it about how we're tying into software is the biggest thing that always drives me up a wall when we're looking at production is when people push out an order for, let's say, 10,000 of a part, but then that unit only has 4,500 runs on it available. How do you tie that into your production system? So now all of a sudden, software is a much better tool to help manufacturers predict their manufacturing a lot longer term. So it's not even just on the manufacturing side, it's also on the software side that can give sales teams a better opportunity to go out there and saying, hey, how do I manage my production and my machine time with the jobs that I'm running to best match the tooling that I have available?
I agree, and I think I think on the sales side, like quoting, AI is now helping companies quote better and faster, and some maybe a process that was a 4 or 5 day to get a quote out. Now with AI and uploading like historical data, you put that new quote in there from what you've quoted in the past, it can generate a quote within like seconds.
Yeah,
and then you're just reviewing that quote and getting that out. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot of things coming in. Obviously, it's going to be a focus for PMA to continue talking about AI, and we're actually looking at a tool right now, how AI can help our members on training.
Yeah.
All that tribal knowledge, how can that tribal knowledge just get in the AI tool to help educate, say the younger generation?
Take that knowledge that those 40-year veterans have,
Yep.
and then be able to pass them to the next generation is critical for manufacturers to stay competitive and to stay production and really not see that labor gap that we're going to be facing, now and in the future.
Yep.
And AI in general, one of the things that I see as a challenge has been everybody wants to kind of bandy it about as a term, but the elements that you take across the board, whether it's just using it to streamline or be more efficient with your time in quoting, your writing of letters, emails, etc., that's great. But the areas that I see it really kind of accentuating what you can do is the predictability element of what is the process, and you want the system to have an actual machine learning aspect to it where it's getting better over time. It's learning that kind of that neural network of I'm taking this, and this, and you've got all these points. It's not just a straight line. There's been people that have been working on systems that analyze, first of all, the machine vibration, machine temperature, current draw. Take all of those parameters to determine, am I just running something that has a thicker material or has a little bit harder, or am I having a bearing fail? So there's more elements of that. What do you see? Where do you see some of the opportunities coming in, Jake?
The one thing I always want to say is I think a lot of times people are intimidated by it. Like, I don't know if that's right for me. I don't even have a basic software running, so how am I expected to have my team adopt AI? And the one thing I would say, AI, what I would view is a very low risk entry of opportunity for you. The term, the idea that I'm working with AI now is AI is a train. Right now, it's parked at a station in manufacturing. They're selling tickets to it. You can go out there and you can buy that train ticket for really cheap, get on that train before it's going to start moving. It's going to eventually start moving. It's going to leave the station. It's going to speed up. It's going to continue to move. Eventually, there's going to be a point where it's going to be very difficult for you to hop on that train and compete with all the companies that are already on that train
Agreed.
using AI. So when I look at opportunities right now, I look at, hey, how can you take what you said, a basic vibration sensor, a temperature monitor sensor, a power generation sensor, even going out there and monitoring, hey, the compressor usage on your compressed air machine. Compressed air is a very expensive process in manufacturing. How can you go out there and monitor, how often your compressor is turning on and off, and go out there and find air leaks? So you can go out there, you can go and get a very cheap AI-based machine learning tool that is plugging into a CMMS, which is, a maintenance scheduling software that a lot of manufacturers use. And if you're not using it, go out there and encourage using it. If you want to, I have companies that I could recommend you working with that. But, it's one of those things where you can go out there, slap a magnet on the side of it, which has a vibration tool, and you can start predicting when your bearings are going to fail, or when your temperatures are overheating, or when your motor on the top of the thing is saying, hey, it's making a little bit more noise than we think it should have been over the last 25,000 strikes in 6 months. Maybe we should have someone go up there, and that's going to prevent downtime. And honestly, it's probably going to prevent a lot of costs. You know how it's expensive to replace a high horsepower motor. Yep. And if you can go out there ahead of time and fix it before things go into a critical thing, especially with downtime and going out there and trying to get a part replaced right now, it's going to shut you down.
Yeah.
Be proactive.
Yeah. David, what have you seen on some of these?
Yeah, the preventive maintenance side of it, and there's a lot of companies that do that, and I think he's right. You've got to start adapting and trying it out, the AI side, and just you can get in it. And I think if you don't get on and start learning it now, and that's why PMA has to be a resource for members of the different options how they can get involved, because there's obviously there's ChatGPT and all that stuff. That's the open AI. Yeah. There's closed AIs where you can be more protected with your information.
Create your own LLM.
And some of them that we've been talking about are in closed areas, so they're not sending their quotes out to the web. But those are things you're going to have to learn and say, But again, I even touched it on you said on the front end of the office. AI, a lot of our manufacturers don't have big marketing firms, and so now AI can help with marketing initiatives and other areas that can help them without a large department in the marketing department. So that's just one area, but I think he's right. You gotta get on board and start learning it, or you're gonna miss it, and you lose that productivity that your competition's doing.
And I think it's one of those elements where it's here to stay.
Right.
If you think that you're it's like that's just a passing fad. That's never gonna have any meat on the bone. But I don't think that's the case.
It's not going away. AI is not a tool that's going away, because I could point to dozens and dozens of already successful case studies where it saved companies thousands of dollars and hours of downtime.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've seen. And even in just trending analysis or predictability of things, there's a lot of, we've talked about big data and information, and it's amazing how cheap sensors have gotten, that there's no good reason to not have that integrated in your system, some kind of an IoT system to say, I want to gather this data, because even things that you think are inconsequential, things like a sensor on a gate. So, why is this operator always going in through this gate and this operator is going in through the back?
Yeah.
And you start to develop trends of why people do things a certain way. And if you can even analyze it, what is one of the biggest problems in stamping plants is die setup time. Yep. It's either they're not doing it fast enough or they're not doing it correctly and it's crashing.
Yeah.
Because of that, we can analyze some of those things to say, why did it happen for this person and it didn't happen for this other person? Was it the job? And then that's where AI can really come in, is building that neural network of, well, this is what happened in these different sensors, to say, this person's doing it a little bit different. And that helps us to improve our workforce, helps us to train better, helps us to develop better curriculums around where's the hole? Why are we not doing that? And it's going to save us in the long run thousands, if not millions of dollars. So what kind of trends have you seen on that end of it?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to my last job. We did a bunch of press retrofits for a very large electric vehicle company here in the United States. You probably know who that is. But so we probably did about 14 press retrofits for them, taking out all the old PLC5 control systems, all the old safety systems, put an all new Rockwell automation safety and safeguard PLCs, and then through ignition on top of that from a SCADA perspective. The whole idea for this is how do we, as you said, one of the biggest things was setup time. Yep. And if we can go out there, we can give a better visualization on setup processes, downtime, how long changeover took to run between dies. It was a massive thing for them. And I always, the big thing is people always say, oh, these modernizations are expensive. And so, it's more expensive downtime.
Yeah.
And as soon as you prevent your first big downtime, these systems pay for themselves almost instantly. Even from a sensor package perspective, where sensors can cost a couple $100, $300. So it's like, so you're telling me a downtime for an hour for you is only a couple $100? There's no way. Most manufacturers, downtime starts at $5,000 and easily goes up 20, 30, 40, 50. If you go to these large automotive companies, downtime for them is $100,000 plus an hour. Right. So it goes back to, can you really afford downtime? Modernization eliminates a lot of risk for you, and those are great areas to start. The big thing as well is when you're looking at a sensor package, I always look at the Purdue model. The Purdue model was focused originally on, you had your sensor level package, which connected to a PLC level, which connected to a SCADA, which connected to an MES, which is ERP, which eventually to the cloud. Sensors nowadays, I can go out and get a sensor that has battery, that automatically has Wi-Fi communication, that can go right to an AWS to get data storing and monitoring and analytics. It's one of those things is you don't have to have full-blown modernization with an OT network to collect data on your floor. It's so easy for manufacturers to be successful by leveraging smart technology at a very low cost of entry.
Yeah. What, David, we've seen before where our technologies are very good at communicating, but where we struggle is it's all pieced together. And lacks some integration. What things are going on in manufacturing where we can try and integrate better within our communication systems?
Well, I think if you go with some companies that are like, more open source platforms where you can tie into more different things, there's a lot of softwares that are out there closed loop and they don't want they're really restricted on how you access. And I think that's very old school thinking. And a lot of the new platforms are all open source, so you can connect with them once. If you don't do it, they're going to find an alternative to get by that way. So more and you can have if you can have an MES system, ERP system that can cover your whole shop floor, recording production, doing the downtime analysis side of it, but then also control your inventory. Along with doing engineered change requests, and all that's tied together. If you can have that all in one platform, that's a home run. So then there's less tie-ins for those integration side. But an open platform just gives you a lot more options to tie in.
Yeah, absolutely.
What have you seen, Jake, on integration systems, whether it's an integration software or integration hardware things? What other things?
I think, as David said, for a long time, people will buy solution packages that have their PLC locked out, right? You couldn't go out there. You couldn't make changes on the PLC or the HMI. And I think a lot of companies are moving away from that. Part of a lot of times when you're going out there and you're submitting an RFP, part of that proposal is we want full access to be able to make changes that we need to, because they want that flexibility. And if manufacturers are not giving them flexibility, they're going to be going somewhere else for solutions.
Right. Gotcha. So Jake, you've been a big supporter of PMA, and we really appreciate it, especially the metal forming area. And again, I think the big thing is we want to highlight some of the awesome companies and members that are part of the association. And so really appreciate you doing that over the last time, and also. I know you're going around around the show here,
absolutely,
and highlighting some of our key exhibitors. And we can't do all of them, but we're highlighting just how awesome the metal forming area is. So I just want to say shout out to that and thank you very much.
It's amazing. A lot of these companies that I've worked with before I even was working with PMA, they were my customers in West Michigan. Some of the great companies like Pridgeon and Clay, for example, and Steelcase and Transmatic, and there's so many great companies in West Michigan. That's where I'm from, where I live now, and it's such a blessing. But I think the big thing that I love about these companies is their openness to community, and I want to be able to showcase like the amazing network that we've built in West Michigan and replicate that across the U.S. In a couple of weeks we have Discover Manufacturing, which we're going to be busing in 15,000 high school students into these manufacturers who many of them are PMA members, and they're going to see what it's like to work in manufacturing. But I think the greatest part about that is they still think manufacturing is this dark, dirty, dull, dangerous industry. Well, you know what? They're going to walk into a place like Precision and Clay and say, wait a second. They have 40 robots on their floor right now doing machine tending, doing automation, doing robotic welding as part of a post-process to the stamping products. And they're going to go out there and say, you know what? There's clean floors. There's clean opportunities. It's not this area that my parents warned me not to get into because manufacturing went overseas.
And that press is making a part for the F-150, and I drive that 150,
absolutely.
or I want to drive the F-150,
and
or
those
something
are the
like
cars
that
you drive.
Yeah,
those
right.
are the lawnmowers that you ride on when you're working in your yard. It's one of those people don't realize that you interact with metal formed components and parts every single day, and it's critical for us to continue to make things here locally, domestically, and work with our partners that way.
Yeah, I mean, West Michigan, our district over there does a phenomenal job, and we were talking about that early. Just, it's a strong network of members that are over there, and the district is, helps support that. It's a great community, and we have other great districts as well, but West Michigan is definitely one of the top ones.
And that's because of the volunteers. If you're going out there, it's a call to action. Go out there, take leadership. If you're a company that doesn't have a great district, great. Go out there, work with PMA. PMA has resources and funding and money available to create these membership events, to create these networking events, to create these showcases. In West Michigan, we have the one in the Pinnacle Center in Hudsonville. As part of that, it's a great showcase where you have 60 or 70 expos come in. There's a lot of awards that are giving. I think, I look back to Portland Products. I think they celebrated their 70th or 80th year as part of being a part of PMA, and it's a celebration. Of course, there's a lot of fun golfing and outings and, all the, drinks and stuff. There's a lot of fun things that happen too, but it really shows the impact that it creates through that.
Last year we highlighted a lot of our members that were 50 and higher.
Yeah.
And one of our districts in Cleveland, we recognized a member that was 77 years.
That's crazy.
And the association's 80, it was at 82. And
Yeah.
It was crazy,
Yeah.
But they've been a huge supporter. So we wanted to recognize those, but that, hats off to the team at West Michigan. And again, like as Jake said, it's a volunteer basis. So they're spending their time, but they're helping the community and helping the industry, which we appreciate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. David, Jake, thank you guys so much for being here.
Absolutely.
This has been great.
Thank you.
And this has been the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast, powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association, live from Metal Form Pavilion here at FABTECH.
Thanks, guys.